Hi, my name is Esther Bartkiw, and today in this video, I'm going to share with you my personal journey, how I went from I hate myself to I love myself and live a life that feels aligned and fulfilling. I'm going to share with you real client stories, people who came to me feeling stuck, defeated, or disconnected, and the deep changes that they were able to create in their lives. And I will explain to you the process I use, the method I have worked with for over 2 decades to help me and to help people create real lasting change at the level where it actually begins. If you have ever wanted to understand the work that I do, who it's really for, and whether or not it might be the next right step for you, this video will give you that clarity. And I encourage that you watch it right through to the end. For a long time in my life, people thought I was doing amazing. They thought I was confident, successful, put together, a real go-getter, adventurous, and a risk taker. They all thought I had a pretty cool life, and I did on many levels. But honestly, inside of me, I was a mess. I didn't like myself, my body, how I looked. I held deep insecurities of not being lovable, abandonment issues, not good enough, not pretty enough, just not enough. And I didn't even fully understand how deep all of that ran until my mid-30s when one moment changed everything for me. I went to a chiropractor appointment. My girlfriend suggested I started to see this guy because he helped her feel better in her body. He was an esoteric kind of guy, and I enjoyed working with him. But one day, we were in session, and out of nowhere, he looked at me and he said, "Esther, why don't you like yourself?" And I laughed because that's what I did, deflect and laugh. And I said, "Well, what do you mean? Of course I like myself." And he said, "But every time you come to see me, you say negative things about yourself. You are so hard on yourself." And he asked me, "Are you open to me doing some muscle testing on you?" Now, at that time, I didn't even know what muscle testing was, but I've always been open and curious, so I said yes. And he had me hold out my arm and repeat statements like, "I like myself." My arm dropped. "I love myself." My arm dropped again. So we backed up and he did some general statements like, "My name is Esther, my name is Tony, I live in Canada, I live in the US, I'm a boy and I'm a girl," to gain a baseline for the muscle testing. And then back to, "I like myself and I love myself." And again, my arm dropped on those 2 statements. Now, I remember feeling confused and very uncomfortable, wondering what it all meant. And he looked at me and said something that shook me to my core and really just cracked me open. He said, "When your arm drops, it's because you don't believe what you are saying." And that comment shook me because it was true. I didn't love myself. No one had ever reflected that knowing back to me so clearly before. And it was a pivotal moment in my life for change. And the guy, Brian, was definitely divinely placed in my life to be a conduit of that change. I am certain that we had a soul contract to go through that experience. So this conscious realization I had me shaking in his office, and I couldn't get out fast enough because of what I called my dirty little secret, that secret that I withheld from the world and myself on a conscious level had been exposed. I didn't love myself. I didn't even like myself. In fact, I loathed pretty much everything about me. And this was exposed to a stranger and to me, the conscious mind. My subconscious parts were in a panic. They were saying things like, she knows she doesn't like herself. And I left Brian's office, went home, and I cried out to God. Not politely, not eloquently, I cried. Ugly cry on the sofa. And I said to God, "God, if you are really here, like everybody tells me, then help me. I cannot keep living like this. And I listed all the things that were wrong in my life and kept saying, please help me, please help me. And what happened next, I can only describe as magic miracles and divine intervention, all happening within 24 hours. I walked into a vitamin store to buy a supplement that my chiropractor recommended. And there was a magazine there, one that I had seen hundreds of times before, one that I had picked up and flipped through in the past. But this time it was different. I took that magazine home and I started to read it. And this time my eyes landed on an ad. And the ad said something like, do you know that your beliefs create your reality, that your thoughts become things? Is your inner voice critical of you and shaping your reality? These were all new concepts to me and definitely new lingo. But on the inside, I could hear a little voice say, yes, yes, yes. It was incredible. Something in me knew that this is it. This was the awareness that I needed to change my life. I went to my computer and I started researching about beliefs. Now you have to understand, this was a long time ago. There wasn't much online. There weren't endless videos and podcasts out there, but somehow I found information. And then I found a practitioner of core beliefs local to me. And I knew I had to book a session, but booking that session was difficult. You see, I came from a family where the belief was, if you went to therapy, it meant that something must be really wrong with you. That seeking that kind of help, instead of going to church, right? Seeking that kind of help meant you were weak or strange. And I had huge limiting beliefs about money. The work I wanted to do with this core belief practitioner was high ticket, and it scared me on so many levels. But I knew that this was divinely presented to me. I knew I had to take this step or I would continue to live the same patterns, behaviors, and outcomes. And somehow I broke through all of those barriers. Maybe it was just sheer will and determination that I had enough. So I walked into my first session and I announced to this lady practitioner, I am going to do this work. I'm going to heal myself and then I am going to go and help other people. And she laughed. She shouldn't have laughed, as she well admits, but she did. And she said, well, how do you know that? And I said, well, I don't know. I just keep hearing this voice inside of me telling me this guidance and direction. And I trusted that voice and I never looked back. As I record this video today, I am coming up on 22 years of doing this work, helping other people, using the same technique and process that I used to change my life all those years ago. This is not a job for me. It's not just a way to make money. It is a calling. It's my purpose, and my purpose found me. I want to share with you a story about a client. I'll call her Sophia. She was in her early 30s and came to me with her dream. She wanted to move to another country and work there. And it wasn't unrealistic. She was already doing online work connected to that country. But every time she took steps to physically move there, something happened. There were delays, blocks, and as she said, self-sabotage. She told me that she thought the problem was confidence. She needed more confidence. But as we talked, more layers emerged. You see, it was just her and her mother. Her mother was capable, healthy, working, but there was an unspoken guilt. If I leave, I'm abandoning my mom. There were also unresolved pain and issues with her father. Her parents had divorced when she was very young. Her father remarried and had a new family. She felt abandoned, unchosen. And that energy was affecting everything in her life, including her relationships. She didn't come to me for relationship work, but it was there, and she knew that at some point we would have to address it. Now, in our first session, something powerful emerged. We discovered that she had an energy attachment. It was her father. He attached to her energetically when the family split, not because he was being malicious, but because he wanted to protect her, stay in contact with her. And she had allowed it subconsciously because she too wanted to keep in connection with her father. But Dad's energy attachment was critical. It was controlling, always telling her that she wasn't doing things right, trying to encourage her, we found out, through tough love. I helped her face the attached dad energy, learn from it, address it, show it what it was actually doing in her life, and we released it. We also worked consciously with her fear of, what if I move and I don't like it? What if I come back and people think that I have failed? Fear of failure. And we talked about it. And I said to her, isn't it more likely that people will think, wow, you actually did this? We did some very deep, powerful work in that first session, releasing energy, discovering and changing limiting beliefs, waking her up to greater consciousness and perspectives. And at the end of the session, she created and came up with 4 simple integration steps. One was buy a new suitcase. She had been stalling on it, but needed it to make her dream come true. Have an honest conversation with her mother about wanting to move and work out of country. Reach out to her father from a new place, understanding that he wanted her to succeed and that he did love her. And of course, email the company she was already working with and ask about in-person, in-country work. And we set a deadline of 72 hours for her to complete the steps. These steps were putting into action the inner changes that we had just created. And within 72 hours, she did email me. She sent me a photo of her new suitcase, confirmation she had talked to her mom, showed me the email that she sent to her father, and the message to her company. Now, we did follow-up sessions to continue to clear the limiting beliefs standing in her way and cleaning out the noise inside of her. And as I guided her through all of this inner work, she very quickly, I think within 3-4 months, received a job offer in the country she wanted to move to, and she booked her flight. And when she went to that country, her life expanded. She loved working in this new country and was so proud of herself for finally doing it. She adjusted her dream as she lived it, but she was living it. Now, months later, she emailed me and said, Esther, I have to tell you something else happened. A man that she had previously dated who couldn't or wouldn't commit reached out. He said that he had been working on himself around the same time she had been, and he realized she was the one. They reunited, but this time she was different. She was confident, she was grounded, she was no longer carrying her parents' energy with her, and she was not looking for someone to rescue her. That's what happens when you change the root of a problem. You clear one issue and many blessings begin to present and unfold. And this is why I want you to understand something. What I do is not about fixing you. It's not about analyzing you. It's not about labeling you or digging endlessly into your past. It's about guiding you back to yourself, your true self. The foundation of my work is the trademarked modality Core Belief Engineering, or CBE for short. It's a powerful modality that generates inner change, leading to outward transformation, focusing on beliefs and the systems that they create. It is based on the premise that what you believe is what you create in your life. Because your beliefs, especially the ones you didn't consciously choose, are shaping your reality every single day. They shape what you allow, what you tolerate, what you think is, well, this is just how life is, and what you believe is possible for you, what you create, live, and experience. Most people don't realize that they are living from beliefs that were formed in childhood, in moments of emotional shock, in families, cultural and religious systems, during experiences where they felt powerless, unseen, or unsafe. And then those beliefs, they run quietly in the background of their subconscious like a program. So you can be smart, you can be intuitive, you can be successful just like I was and still feel stuck, anxious, disconnected, or like something inside of you is always fighting you, pushing back. I call it the inner push-pull. That doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. What it means is that there is a misalignment between who you truly are and what you believe. I want to tell you about a woman I worked with many years ago, back when I still had an office and worked with people face to face. So she came to me feeling completely defeated by life. Her marriage was in shambles. She wasn't being treated well by her husband. She felt unloved, unworthy, and neglected. As a result, she was eating too much and drinking too much, and she told me she felt like a shell of who she used to be. And yet, somewhere deep inside of her, she knew that there was more. When she sat across from me in my office, if you would have looked at her, you would have never guessed what she was about to tell me next. She said, "Esther, my dream is to be a competitive bodybuilder." There she was, exhausted, disconnected from herself, not feeling confident in her body or her life at all, but that dream was alive inside of her. And I looked at her and I said to her, "Let's do it. I can help you get there." Not by analyzing her, not by fixing her, not by telling her what was wrong with her, but by guiding her to turn inward and begin to discover, explore, and change the beliefs she held about herself and life that were quietly running the show. Beliefs that said that she wasn't good enough. Beliefs that said she didn't deserve more. Beliefs that said her dreams were unrealistic, selfish, or impossible. As we did the inner work together, she took the outward steps, and this was very important. She started going to the gym. She hired a personal trainer. Her confidence began to grow, not because her body was changing, but because she was changing on the inside. We were rebuilding her relationship with herself, helping her remember who she really was, that she was capable, lovable, worthy, and deserving of more. And as that inner work deepened, the rest of her life began to change as well. She left a marriage that was unfulfilling. She found a new community through the gym, people who supported her, inspired her, and reflected back to her strength. And yes, she went on to compete in multiple bodybuilding competitions and placed on the podium. She did very well. She lived the dream that once felt impossible. She became a personal trainer and a spokesperson for companies and products in the competitive bodybuilding world. And she is still doing this work today. It's her passion and her calling. And I am honored that I was able to guide her through the early stages of that transformation because she was ready, she was willing, and she was determined to say yes to herself and to the life that she wanted to live. Another woman came to me who wanted to have a second child. She had one child and wanted another. And she was doing all the right things, seeing the doctors, going through her nutrition protocols, trying to stay positive, but still was not conceiving. Now, we had worked together before, so she understood about beliefs creating her reality and wanted to explore the emotional piece to see if there were beliefs and emotions from the past connected to her inability to have another baby. And I guided her through sessions with different parts and aspects of her that had information to share. And we also listened to her body, talked to her body, as it told a story of fear, of pressure, of feeling like she had to prove herself as a woman. Her body wasn't broken, it was protecting her. We worked with the belief that her worth depended on her producing something, on being successful in a career. And as that belief released, her body softened. And not long after, she conceived. Not because we forced anything, but because her system and her body finally felt safe enough to receive. She had 2 babies after our work. And to this day, when something comes up for her in life that she is not able to see her way through, she reaches out and I guide her through the process of inner change. Another client came to me completely burned out in her job. She was talented, brilliant, but trapped in a corporate job that offered great salary and benefits, but not the passion that she wanted from her work. She was doing a side hustle of tutoring young children, and her dream was to make that her business and leave her job. As we worked together, turning within to discover, explore, and change the limiting beliefs that were preventing her from taking the risk, the steps to go for her dream, we found beliefs of fear of change. And as we worked on them, something incredible happened. She left her job. She started to grow her tutoring business, and eventually it became so big, she franchised it. Not from doing more, like more hustle, but from inner alignment. The work I do shines best for a specific kind of person. My work is not about whether or not you are spiritual. You don't have to understand energy, and you don't have to believe in anything esoteric. You don't need to talk a certain way or see the world the way I do. My work is equally effective for both men and women on any issue or topic. I work just as easily with CEOs, professionals, highly analytical people as I do with spiritual seekers, creatives, intuitives, and stay-at-home moms. And why is this so? Because the process I use does not require you to adopt to my worldview. It guides you into your own inner discovery using the language, the framework, and the meaning that already works for you. If you are conservative in your outlook, the process I use meets you there. If you are spiritually open, the sessions will meet you there. I am just the guide. You are the one taking the journey. My work shines best for people who are intelligent, self-aware, and already know that something deeper is going on. People who are ready to take responsibility for their lives, release victimhood, do the inner work, be, and then take the action steps to reach out and ask for guidance if something comes up that they cannot make sense of. Maybe you've already read all of the books. You've gone to therapy. You have done personal development, coaching, healing work, even spiritual work. And you may be saying to yourself, Esther, I've done it all and I understand all of this, so why isn't my life changing? That's because often insight isn't enough. Now, don't get me wrong, conscious awareness is important, but for most people, the real blocks that they battle up against live at the subconscious level, the belief level, where patterns were formed early in life to help you to survive and are now quietly sabotaging you. The work I do is for you if you're willing to take responsibility, not blame everyone and everything for what's happening in your life. If you're ready to stop saying, why did this happen to me, and start asking, what belief system has been running my life, and am I willing to change it? I work gently, but I work directly. I'm compassionate in sessions, empathetic, and deeply respectful of whatever you have been through in life. But at the same time, I won't keep you stuck in a story that no longer serves you. During sessions, you and I are there to do a job. And yes, we do it with depth, humanity, a sense of curiosity, and even fun along the way. This work is not for people who want to be rescued, not for people who want someone to fix them. It's not for people who want to endlessly analyze their past without being willing to change how they live in the present. And it's not for people who are looking to spiritually bypass, which means pretend that things in their past did not happen. It's also definitely not for people who want a quick fix, a 15-minute energy session. But if you are someone who feels that quiet inner pull, the sense that I know that there's something more for me, and you're willing to show up honestly, courageously, and consistently, I will meet you where you are at. And this work can be profoundly life-changing, because when you change the belief systems that shape how you think, feel, behave, and choose, your relationships change. Your work changes, your sense of self changes, and your life begins to reorganize around who you truly are rather than who you learned you are. Your beliefs do create your reality, and that's not punishment, but it's a mirror. And when those beliefs change, life responds. Opportunities open, relationships shift, your body relaxes, your nervous system settles, and you stop fighting yourself. You end that inner battle. I once worked with a young man in his early 30s. He was an engineer in a large city, working for a major company, and by all external measures, he was doing exceptionally well. He was super smart, respected, made very good money, and he was climbing the corporate ladder quickly. So from the outside, his life looked pretty great and successful. But the moment he left work, everything fell apart for him. He didn't have a girlfriend. He didn't have much of a social life. He was painfully shy, not just around women, but around all people, and didn't know how to talk to them. He would go home every night, drink, eat, numb himself, and then wake up the next morning and do it all over again. When he came to me, he said he wanted better health. That was the presenting issue. But very quickly, what emerged was something deeper. What he really wanted was people connection. He wanted friends. He wanted an intimate relationship. He wanted a life that felt full, not just work, eat, sleep. So we began by helping him turn inward and gently connect with the parts of him that were preventing him from having a fulfilling social and emotional life. And what we uncovered were deep insecurities formed in childhood. You see, he grew up with a father who was very hard on him and a mother who soothed him with food. And as an adult, he was still running that same program, but he was doing it to himself now. He was being harsh and critical with himself, soothing himself with food and alcohol, and holding the belief that deep down, he was not good enough. That belief was shaping everything. What made him such an interesting client to work with is that he was not spiritual at all. He was very conservative, traditional, and definitely analytical. And yet, he was willing to do this process with me. He was willing to turn inward. He was willing to trust what emerged from within himself. And he was willing to face the experiences that he had buried in his subconscious for years. At the end of every session, as I do with all of my clients, I guided him to intuitively come up with concrete physical action steps that he could take to integrate the inner changes that we had just made. These were not always easy for him, but he did them. And as his inner confidence began to build, his behaviors naturally shifted. Instead of going home alone every night, instead of waiting for someone else to initiate connection, he began to ask people to go out with him after work. And that opened the door to an entirely new social scene. So what we had to do then is work on how to be in those social spaces, not hiding, not shutting down, but being genuinely curious, engaged, and present with the people he was socializing with. And as he began to feel better about himself internally, his relationship with food also started to change, not overnight, but that was very important for him. There was a lot of control and protection programs going on inside of him. So we didn't try to rip any of that away. We allowed it to just soften and dissolve gradually at a pace that his system could tolerate. And then there was that moment that I will never forget. After one particularly deep session, he emailed me a day later and said, Esther, I don't know what happened in that session, but I came home and I had to clean my entire apartment. I have never done that before. Today I'm taking bags of clothes and items to the donation bin. And he said it felt really good to be in his home. And I told him, that's what happens when you clean up your inner house. Your outward reality begins to reflect it. We worked on and off for a couple of years, and the last time I heard from him, he was dating someone. He had a small social circle that he genuinely enjoyed and was continuing his career. But now he was doing it all with confidence, not just competence. And that's what this work does. It's an inner job. So here's what working with me looks like if you decide to take a next step. This isn't something where we just show up and talk for an hour and hope that something magically changes. The core belief engineering process starts before we ever sit down for our first Zoom session. Once we decide to work together, we go back and forth by email, getting very clear on a few essential things like what is happening in your life that you don't like, what specifically is the change that you want, and most importantly, what are you willing to do to get that change? All of that clarity matters because the subconscious mind will not shift until the conscious mind knows exactly what it wants and where it's going. Vague intentions don't create transformation. Clear direction does. And then in a session, we begin with conscious work, helping your conscious mind articulate what you want to experience, why you want it, and what needs to be different in your life. That conscious clarity is what allows us then to bring the subconscious into alignment. So it stops resisting and it starts supporting you in achieving your goals. In session, I guide you through a core belief engineering process, an inner journey that works with both the conscious and subconscious mind. Gentle question and answer. We work with the parts of you in a respectful, grounded way, parts that were created to protect you, parts that once helped you to survive but are now holding you back, parts that may be running outdated beliefs and strategies. Now, the goal is not to get rid of these parts of you. The goal is to bring them into alignment with what you are consciously wanting now. An example of a part of you, if you drive, you have a driving part. And when you get into a car, that part comes forward and it knows exactly what to do. It knows the rules of the road, how to steer, when to brake, and often it can get you from where you are to where you want to go, even though you've completely zoned out. That same driving part might feel calm on quiet streets and anxious on the highway, tense around big trucks, or frustrated when other people don't follow the rules. And all of that information is really important. Every part of you exists for a reason. And my work isn't about getting rid of parts. It's about understanding them, working with them, healing them, bringing them into alignment so they can support you and your dream creation. Each session is its own container. We don't try to resolve your entire life in one session, and honestly, that wouldn't be safe or sustainable anyway. But in every session, something resolves, a belief shifts, a pattern loosens, an internal conflict comes into harmony, and each session builds one upon the other until the entire issue or theme that you're working on naturally completes and releases. Sessions are spaced about 4 to 5 weeks apart, and that's very intentional because part of the work is what happens in between sessions. That's the time for integration, noticing what's different in your life, seeing how you respond differently, observing changes in your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and of course, taking real physical action steps in your life to support the work we're doing in sessions. At the end of each session, you intuitively come up with specific integration steps. This is not busy work, it's not tips, but actions that support what has shifted internally. And this matters a lot. I don't disappear in between sessions. You are encouraged to write to me as you're integrating to tell me what you're noticing, what's coming up, what's changing, and where you might still feel challenged. I am your accountability partner in this process. And honestly, the clients who get the deepest, most lasting results are the ones who engage in this way, who stay present with the work, who take responsibility for their part of the sessions, and who allow the process to unfold fully. The CBE process is about restoring inner support. When your conscious and subconscious minds are aligned, life stops feeling like a constant push-pull and starts feeling coherent, supported, and possible. My work shines best with people who are already able to, at least a little bit, turn within and access information from the inside. So that inner information might come as thoughts that don't feel forced or analytical, feelings or sensations in your body, images, memories, or visuals, a sense of knowing, sensing, feeling, flashes of colors, or even sounds and inner impressions. There is no right way for this information to show up for you. Everyone's parts speak to them differently. What matters is that you're willing to listen inwardly and trust what begins to emerge rather than intellectualize answers. Because the work I do is not about me analyzing you, diagnosing you, or telling you what to do, I guide you on an inner journey. And you are the one discovering what is true for you. Now, if you're hearing this and thinking, Esther, this all sounds really great, but I don't really access information from within yet, that doesn't mean my work isn't for you. It just means that that's where the work needs to begin. So some people in that situation will choose to start developing their inner listening and their inner knowing on their own, learning how to slow down, tune in, recognize their internal signals. And then they come to me when they're ready for deeper belief work. And sometimes we just do that process together, expanding your inner world. But what's important to understand is this. If someone is resistant to turning inward, if they don't like the idea of listening to their inner world, or if they expect me to fix them, then this work will not feel comfortable and it won't be effective. And that's okay. There's something for everyone. My process asks for participation, presence, and self-responsibility. When someone is willing to engage that way, something very beautiful happens very quickly. Because within the first 10 to 15 minutes of a session, most people naturally slip into the rhythm of their inner world. And from that point on, the work becomes very intuitive, revealing, and deeply satisfying. Now, this is important to note. My work is not clinical or medical in nature. I work with beliefs and inner systems. If someone is experiencing a mental health condition that requires psychiatric or clinical support, this work won't be the right fit. And I encourage you to reach out to a qualified mental health professional or a local clinic in your area. But if you're listening to this and you feel something inside of you saying, yes, this is it, this is what I've been praying for, this is what I've been looking for and wanting, that's not an accident. Because that's like the same inner voice I heard all those years ago that said, Esther, you're going to do this, you're going to take this, you're going to change your life, and then go help other people. Now, after listening to all of this, if you still have some additional questions about working with me, I invite you to email me first. We will explore together whether this work is the right next step for you. And if you feel ready, truly ready to step into session work with me, you are welcome to book a free 20-minute alignment call where we can discuss your dreams and working together so we can get you there. So you're living it, not just dreaming it anymore. All of the information you need to take the next step is in the description box below. There's no pressure, there's no convincing, just resonance. My work is about helping people who are ready and willing to find their way back to themselves. And if this is for you, you will know. You don't have to settle for just getting by in life, managing symptoms, using coping skills, or watching other people live the life that you want. Real change is possible, and it always begins at the level of belief.